This episode is being brought to you by Diesel Fuel Prints. Diesel Fuel has been in the sticker business since 1991, and he's been printing all my stickers since the early 2000s. DieselFuelPrints.com always uses the highest quality weatherproof material, full color printing, 125 black and white stickers starts at just $25, and easy online ordering at DieselFuelPrints.com will get you a quote on a sticker of any shape and size you can think of. Shipping's always free, and listeners of this show will get a 10% discount if they use the promo code AWP 2021. So go check out Diesel Fuel for your sticker needs. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Anyway Whatever podcast. I'm your host, Mike Fisher, and today's guest is painter Buddy Nestor. Me and Buddy have been in art shows together for years at different galleries. And I never really knew Buddy until very recently. He's a super cool guy. I didn't know we had so much in common, especially the music that we like. But I decided I wanted to have Buddy on the show, and he was happy to come on. And then we proceeded to not talk about either of our art very much at all. We just kind of chatted about, life and like how we got to where we are. How music and skateboarding and stuff like that got us where we're going. So it's just a nice chat between me and Buddy. Cool episode, something a tiny bit different than usual. Again, another episode where I never really stop and do like an official intro. So you're going to just jump right in to, part of our conversation here. As always, all the information about the show is down below. Merch, links to Buddy's work, links to all of the show information you can find down below. And yeah, let's get you to Buddy Nestor right on the other side of the opening track. I get a lot of people who are obviously a lot of people are extremely shy about talking in public speaking. Yeah. So I get a lot of people who are like, they need to be reassured that it's just going to be super chill. Yeah. And so I found that this is definitely the best fucking way to do that.
Yeah, jumping right in might be problematic. Hey, real quick, if I move my can you hear that little ding if I move my volume bar? You hear that? Okay, cool.
None of that shit matters anyway. I mean, it's like, again, it's like the most low key fucking thing imaginable. Cool. I'm recording with Wendy Kadzuk.
Oh, awesome. She's great.
And when I was trying to set up times, like she's like, you and her responded back at the exact same time, and she's like, what about 2 on Wednesday? And you're like, what about 4 on Wednesday? And yours came in a little first, so I was like, okay, cool. Then I had to get back to her and be like, well, I'm recording with Buddy at 4, and she's like, you tell Buddy he's got to fucking wait.
I was just gonna say, I always come first. If it's me and Wendy, I always do that shit. That's why I know Wendy's awesome. I've been spending every Friday night pretty much with Wendy on that DAS Zoom since March. Yeah, she's
what is that all about? I think I saw something about that. Is there like just a giant Zoom call with all y'all?
It's like it's become its own thing, really. Like it started really right when the lockdown happened. My friend Steve Clef, who does some stuff with Chet Zars, basically just said, hey, we're all locked down. Maybe this is a cool thing to do for your Patreon. And he put it together. The first time I went on, I think it was like 50 people or something.
Jesus.
So, and a lot of people, it's artists. So a lot of people just put themselves on mute, and their work is front and center. Other people are interacting.
Do people get on there and paint, like live paints? It's like everybody painting and shit
all night.
Oh my God, that's fucking rad. I want to do that.
It's incredible. Yeah, like some of the, like Paul Komoda, Travis Louie, like Chet will get on. Like Chet usually does his work, puts his like GoPro on his work or his phone on his work. So like I'm watching, while interacting like with some of my favorite artists for 20 years, you're not getting like a quick time lapse. I'm seeing from like it goes from like 5 o'clock my time on the East Coast to whenever it drops out, which I've been on there till 8 a.m.
Oh, Jesus.
So, I mean, people are coming on from all over Europe, all over Australia. So they're like jumping in the middle of the night, early in the morning. Like, it's really, really cool. And now it's kind of like it's worked itself into a core group of people that have been on it for a long time. So most often now when you get on, it's like, I don't know, 8 to 12 people, and then a couple people bounce in and out and say hi and what's up. It's awesome. It's been awesome.
I need to start doing that. That sounds fucking rad. I mean, it will make me paint more, you know, like I don't paint enough. And so I thought I was going to start a YouTube art channel, and I started getting episodes started, and I have a bunch of stuff recorded for that. Mm-hmm. But my kid robot work cropped back up, and it's been, so I may have to get back into that. But part of me is also like, that's so much fucking work that I don't need. Right. So, but one of the parts of it was, this is going to force me to paint more often. And,
sure.
So maybe I'll just start doing that on Friday nights.
It's cool. I'll send you the link. It's been like, I actually just on Sunday, Dan Colonna, who's been one of the main artists on there. He's on there every night for the last year and a half. I'd never met him in real life before. We just became friends on there, and he came up on Sunday, and because he was coming up, we had a keg party and had like 30 artists over, and
wow,
Dan and his family got to meet everybody, and it's really really create a lot of like long-standing friendships and stuff, I think, because like spending 12 to 14 hours with somebody every Friday, I've never had a friend like that.
Yeah, no shit, right?
Like, my family doesn't know me that well at all.
That sounds like something that I'd be super, super into for sure. Especially right now with my wife being on a TV show. It's like, so there'll be Friday nights where I'm like here by myself for sure. Do you is it open like every night and people, or is it just like Friday night, or how does it work?
It opens for you. It'd be 2:00 on Fridays and opens, and it's basically open till the last guy goes to sleep.
Wow.
Yeah, like they've had it open for 24 hours at times for different events and stuff. Where I spent 18 of those hours on there for real, because that was my social interaction.
That's rad. I wish I would have known about that. Although, dude, to be honest, like I was, we can just be recording at this point, the episode.
Sure.
I usually like to do a little intro thing, but it nowadays more often than not, these little opening conversations are good enough that I don't want to chuck them anyway. So, we'll leave some of this in here, but
cool.
I had to learn how to like make a podcast from knowing absolutely zero. Like I did not know how to record audio. I did not know how to use an app that recorded audio. I didn't know how to record video or edit video or any of that. I used to know how to edit video 25 years ago when I first got into the video game industry, and everything was still multimedia, and that meant there was a lot of video involved, but I had to do it forever. So just trying to learn how to do this was what 6 months of my fucking year was.
Right. Is it more user friendly now than it was, say, back then? I mean, I'm sure it was rougher back then, time wise, anyway.
No, I mean, if I'm using Adobe Premiere now, when I opened it up, it was still enough like it was 20 years ago that I could look at it and go, okay, I can remember how to do some basic stuff here. And then and then one of the great things about being alive in the year 2021 is that if you need to know how to do something, you can go to YouTube and somebody will happy to show you how to do it. So I was at YouTube University for all day, every day for like months.
Have you run into anything that you like type in that's not there? Because like I never have. Like I'm talking weird shit for my regular job. Everything I type in to figure out how to fix this or that, I don't understand who these people are. Like I don't know people that post 5 YouTube videos a day, and I don't understand how this thing would have been created the way it exists today without that happening. Like I feel like the whole world would have to put something in, but I don't know. It's amazing to me that everything I think of is literally on there, and I could fix my sink, or I could replace my floor and learn how to do it in 5 minutes.
Yeah, dude, it's super weird. It's super crazy weird. All the stuff that you can, well, just in YouTube in general, like, and we're just talking about one tiny facet of what YouTube can be used for. You know
Right.
what I mean? Like, I got addicted to all the different art shows on YouTube. I had never sat and watched YouTube as an entertainment thing ever
Hmm.
before the pandemic. And when I was learning how to make this show, I was like, well, I'll see what other people are doing. And so I found other YouTube shows, other YouTube like podcasts and stuff. And I was like, and then I found all these art channels, like, you know, with 1000 and the Nerd Forge and stuff. All these people just have like, they're just basically like Bob Ross shows, just making whatever it is that they make. And
You're gonna have to send me some links because I don't even know these things exist.
God,
Like,
dude,
really,
they're
I
like
had no idea.
the best shows on TV.
Really, that's cool.
Yeah, some of them are great, dude. The Nerd Forge is amazing. It's these two Norwegians. It's this Norwegian girl and her boyfriend, and they just do like fantasy crafting projects. Like they'll bind a book and put like glowing crystals in it, or they'll build a suit of armor, or you know, she'll like paint the side of their camper like with the Bob Ross thing, like, or like,
That's
you know,
cool.
giant dragon painting in her bedroom wall, like totally insanely interesting stuff.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that I do is I watch Hot Wheel races on there. There's like a bunch of different channels that have
Yeah.
Hot Wheels races, and there's one in particular that I love, and it's like, you know, they make it like a show you want to watch. You know, there's 2 episodes a week, and I'm like, can't wait for a new episode to see what's going to happen in this
Right.
phase of the tournament. It's ridiculous. But the
That's
thing,
funny.
the way what turned me on initially when I found YouTube, the first thing it did for me was, oh, I can watch any band live that I ever wanted. Like I went and watched a
Yeah.
bunch of old Misfits footage from like the 80s when Misfits were still a band and playing live. I was like, I
Right.
can't see this anywhere else. It was fucking amazing.
Well, have you I don't know what kind of stereo setup you have. I feel like everybody's got something that's good now sound wise too. I'm gonna say 5 years ago, and I'm not sure, I mean, there's been nothing for a year and a half, but from about 5 or 6 years ago up until say lockdown, St. Vitus has done like very professional style videos. So like, you know, you can look for like any band live and you'll come up with 30 different videos. But if you find the St. Vitus version, like the video quality and the audio is really good. So like when bands would come through Philly and I couldn't go see them, they always a lot of them wind up going through St. Vitus too. And they would put that shit up like in a day or two. So if I missed that show, I would just, you know, get my popcorn and my beer and, you know, set up the living room, try and blow the windows out, try and make the neighbors leave, and like really like have my own concert in my house with the St. Vitus stuff. It's really, really good.
Yeah, there's a channel called Bridge City Sessions that's just like bands, you know, doing like a 30-minute set. But there's no audience, you know, it's just in studio, but they like every kind of underground music from like death metal to melodic pop punk to, you know,
cool.
doom metal. It's like, and the sound quality is fucking amazing. It's really, really good.
Okay.
Yeah,
'cause a lot of times you look at
YouTube in the last year, like my whole life shifted to YouTube pretty much. Like I haven't watched like very many TV shows at all. Like, you know, we binged watched like everything my wife had never watched. And my wife
Right.
was one of those people like from the time she was like 18 until like when we met, like there was like a good 20 something years of her life where she didn't even own a TV. You know, she was one of those people where she's like just out doing stuff. Like, and she didn't,
Yeah.
she had a TV, but she didn't ever turn it on or anything.
Right.
And then, of course I ruined that, but I tainted that part of her life. But there's like, you know, she'd never watched The Sopranos. So I was like, we're watching the fucking Sopranos. She'd never watched Six Feet Under. Like,
yeah, there's a lot to catch up on though.
so the pandemic was really good
you.
for that. You know, she got caught up on like, you know, we just recently finished watching Deadwood. She'd never watched that. And, you know.
Oh, that's a good one.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, sure.
And you've got what, 8 years of Game of Thrones if you want to throw that
We
in.
did a Game of Thrones, but that one we started actually before. 'Cause she used to tease the shit out of me. Like, she's like on Sunday nights, she's like, okay, I'm going to bed. You have fun with your Dungeons and Dragons show.
Right.
And then like at some point, somebody at work finally convinced her that she should try watching it. And this was like in like season 6 or something. And we started watching because it like was about to start. And she's like, we've got to binge from the beginning all the way through. And then of course she's like, this is the best show that's ever been made, of course. I was like,
that's
fucking
6
8
hours
years.
a night just to catch up. Yeah,
dude, totally. Yeah. Well, the thing is, during the pandemic, all fucking day, we had all day to watch TV.
Right.
When we weren't doing this, when we weren't learning how to do this, she was instrumental in helping me figure out how to put all this together. And I've kind of gotten to the point now where it's like, I can get all of my weekly podcast work done in like half a day on Sunday. And so,
that's cool.
She doesn't even really have to be that involved anymore. She still kind of runs the Instagram page for the most part. But other than that, like she was super involved for a long time. And now it's like, I just have figured out how to do everything super fucking quick because that's how I do everything.
I got to get somebody to run my Instagram. I just looked, I haven't posted since like the beginning of February. So
you cannot have a successful Instagram if you do it like that. Once a day is even my art Instagram, like I once a week, and that's not even going to be enough most of the time. Like the algorithm wants you to be posting once a day at least.
Yeah, like I two of my friends who were younger, Brahman Lorelei and Michelle Konzik, they're both like full-time artists that basically run their things through business through Instagram. Essentially, they do some gallery stuff, but it's mainly Instagram. They do like, did you ever go on somebody's story and it's just little pixels all next to each other in a line, like 100 stories all linked up?
Right? Yeah.
Like, there's no fucking way in the world I'm doing that. Like, I'm just not. Like, I'm never gonna do it. So that like stuff like that just like backs me off of it. You know what I mean? Because I know if that's what you got to do, I'm not the dude. I'm gonna paint some stuff, and like, if somebody wants it, they come get it. Like, I'm not gonna dance around. I'm not gonna TikTok. I'm not doing all that shit.
Talking a little bit about your painting stuff. Are you oils or acrylics?
I'm acrylics.
Okay. Yeah. It looked like acrylics to me. That's a constant conversation I have with painters on here, and there's like a lot of back and forth about the politics of oils over acrylics in the fine art world. I don't know.
Yeah,
I've never painted in oil, so
no. As an acrylic painter, I've been like in the middle of this politics my whole art career, and it turns out that oil painters are all pussies and acrylics just fine. We figured it out.
That's like when I had Kristen K. Farrell on. She's like, oh, is this a thing? And I was like, yeah. And she's like, well, then I'm intentionally going to never paint with oils ever. And they can all fuck off.
That's funny.
Like the most punk rock response in history.
That's funny. I'm a huge fan, and I did not know she was acrylics. Like, some people can use them in a way where they like kind of look like honey and really kind of fake out that acrylic oil presentation. So yeah, I just found out that she was acrylic. That's pretty funny.
Yeah, Isabel Samaras, when I had her on too, we were talking about it, and she's like, well, I'm oils now, but for the most of my career I was all acrylics. And all these oil painters are like, you work so hard to make your stuff look like an oil painting with acrylics when you can just switch over. And she's like, when I did, it made my life a lot easier. And she's like, and my work still looks the same. And I was like, also surprised. I was like, oh, I just assumed you'd always worked in oils because your work looks like oils.
Yeah, I would have too. I didn't know that about her, and I've been following her forever. But
she was one of the raddest guests. She's such a cool person. Like she was like the total come up friend. Like I was like, yes, like she's totally rad.
yeah, and she's hilarious and just fun, and I mean,
totally fun person. Yeah, like and she's an art teacher, and she's the exact kind of art teacher you would dream of having as a kid. And you're like, I'm going to go to art school, and then you're going to get her as your teacher.
I want excited. That right now. I dream of that right now. I want Isabel Samaras to be my art teacher like today. But you think when she's switching over, like her peers are like Mark Ryden and shit. So like when she goes like, oh, I'm not sure about this media, and she's like, hey, Mark Ryden, what do I do about linseed oil? And he's probably a pretty good, reference for
right. Or like
oil
even like
painting.
Robert fucking Williams or something.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like,
it's like,
one of the greatest American painters in history. Like, she could just like be like, Robert, I need help. Like,
right.
Imagine if that's what your life is, right?
Yeah, and he'll fix it in 5 seconds. Like he'll
And
definitely
he's
have the answer.
insanely nice too. I met him once and he was just the nicest, coolest fucking dude ever.
That's cool. I never met him. I got to see a retrospective show in New York, I'm going to say 8 years ago, maybe something like that. And it was insane. Like all the really huge pieces. I don't know how many it was, like 60, 70 paintings or something. It was absolutely incredible.
Yeah, that's amazing. One of the things that some people don't know that I'm semi sure is still the case is that Leonardo DiCaprio and Nicolas Cage owned the largest bulk of his work in private collections, I think.
I knew Leonardo DiCaprio was a big collector. I didn't know Nicolas Cage would have been
he's like
collecting a lot of lowbrow anyway.
He's like a huge Robert Williams collector, from what I understand. But like Leo's dad is best friends with Billy Shire, and he Leo grew up in the lap of those people, so that makes perfect sense.
Oh, I had no idea. Okay.
Yeah, like Leonardo's dad is literally Billy Shire's best friend.
Wow.
Like Kozik, Billy Shire, and DiCaprio are like those three guys are like super
Is
friends.
his dad an artist as well?
Ooh, that's a good question. I should know the answer to that,
maybe,
but I don't.
Maybe just collector.
I think he's like one of those like cool LA patrons of the arts type of dudes, like Billy Shire. I think he's like that, but he may in fact be also an artist himself. I'm not aware of whether he is or not. And now I should know that. I'm gonna have to look.
You just made me more jealous of rich people. Those two dudes have probably like their beach house is covered in Robert Williams shit. I mean, that's awesome.
Well, I just saw recently that Leonardo just moved back to that neighborhood in Los Feliz. He just bought a house back in that neighborhood where he grew up in Los Feliz, where La Luz is. So,
cool.
Because I worked out in Malibu for a long time at this game company. We'd run into him like at the liquor store all the time. Like there was there's like this one stretch on the PCH that there's not much in either direction. Like you haven't gotten all the way to Malibu and you're definitely out of Santa Monica. And it's like, there's like a burger stand, like a snorkel rental place, and a liquor store, like a hardware store where you can buy fishing tackle and shit. And yeah. And like, dude, the amount of people I saw when I was over there, just like buying a Coke or whatever, is like, oh, that's Suge Knight. It's Leonardo DiCaprio and, Giselle Bundchen.
I feel like I'd be terrified if I saw Suge Knight. Like just having grown up with NWA and all that shit. Like if I saw Suge Knight, I feel like I would black out while I was running.
He's a fucking huge dude. I can tell you.
Yeah.
But like, I'm one of those people that like, I wouldn't say I grew up in a really bad neighborhood. But I grew up in a neighborhood that was adjacent to a couple of competingly bad neighborhoods.
Yeah. Same here. Yeah.
And so like, I just learned early on, especially as like, I got into punk rock really young. And so, I was a weirdo anyway. So I just like figured out like, if you just befriend the scary people, you're going to be probably more safe than if you don't. And so that's just kind of always my mode is like, oh, that's Suge Knight. I'm going to say, what's up? You know what I mean? And so I was like, oh, what's up, dude? And he was like, hey, what's up? Like, he was just super chill. Like,
yeah, I guess you're right. Just don't start a business with him.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't do that.
Or park in his parking spot.
Hanging over the fucking ledge of fucking,
yeah, or don't be
the Venetian in Las Vegas.
Yeah, don't dress like Vanilla Ice that day.
Yeah, I've been in LA for a long time now too, and I've worked all over the place, and skated in every potential skate spot with all the gnarly people, and been in every goddamn.
I feel like all the skate spots are in really sketchy neighborhoods there. Like that's what it seems. Yeah, a lot of them. Yeah.
Yeah. I spent a lot of time in the 2000s, like in Santa Monica and Venice skating, with my best friend had a skate shop in Venice.
Oh,
Like
cool.
right literally on the border of Venice and Santa Monica on Lincoln. And like, there was a big half pipe in front and we skated, every single Sunday. I was there all day and like every pro in the world came there and every
Right.
sketchy weirdo also.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, that now has, I guess, turned into the Venice Beach skate park, which is every sick ass pro. And that is just that snake run alone in that skate park is awesome. But yeah, you get like the raddest dudes on the planet and like some old heads coming out because of the pools and stuff. And some serious fuckheads hanging out there.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, I mean, just Venice in general is like, that's the nicest $12 million house I've ever seen. And there's a Winnebago out front with shit dripping out of the fucking side tank right in its front yard.
Yeah. Yeah.
One of my friend who owned that skate shop, like he's been in Venice now for like 20 years. And I actually had him on the podcast, Jim Cowens, and, we were catching up and he's like, the homeless thing is so gnarly right now, cause you want to be sympathetic, right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to just be a fucking asshole.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you gotta live your life too. You know what I mean? And it's like, terrible for everybody involved.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't want to get stabbed so someone can steal my iPhone that they can't give to anyone because they all have iPhones or whatever. Like you
don't want to walk out the front of your house and there's a fucking Winnebago full of fucking crackheads in it. And like you have to worry about where you're stepping because there's hype needles everywhere and there's fucking broken glass and shit. Like when I lived in Echo Park, before it got super cleaned up, it was like that still. And it was like, I'd walk my dog and it'd be like, fuck, he stepped on a piece of glass. We're going to the vet. And, and it's
right.
There was still a murder a week on our block. And it's like, fucking LA's LA, it's like just such a weird mix of completely amazing shit, completely phony bullshit, and like hell on earth all combined into one fucking place.
Yeah, it is. Why, and it's like gorgeous at the same time.
It has its moments.
Yeah,
it has its moments. Well, the thing I like about LA, I always say, is like if you live here and you live here for any amount of time, you figure it out. Like you can have any life you want here. Like. Mm-hmm. You could get up in the morning and go skiing and pack your shit and be at the beach and catch waves before the sun goes down if you wanted to do that. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of places on earth you could do that.
Yeah, they used to have a contest that was like, all the guys that crossed over, like skating, surfing, and snowboarding. I forget how they did it. I think they would surf in the morning and then skate for a couple hours and then go snowboarding all in the same day, all in the same contest. Which is so sick.
That, but that's rad.
Yeah, it was like, I don't know, 10 years ago or so. They did it for a couple of years, but it's pretty neat that you can do that because Big Bear or whatever is like, I don't know, an hour and a half away or something.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, they used to do the LA skateboard race too, which was like from like Los Feliz to Santa Monica, and that was always fun. I did that once, and I wasn't trying to win. I was just trying to drink beer and ride my skateboard from the entirety of Los Angeles.
Right. That sounds awesome. So it's just like a massive skateboarder, like going like 15 miles or something?
I guess that's closer to 20 miles. I can't really remember. It's been a minute.
That's awesome.
It's fucking far. And it was like, it started at Triple XL, the Beastie Boys old store in Silver Lake or Los Feliz. And like everybody would just take off. You'd take off and like you just had, it was basically like the Gumball Rally or
right. Yeah, just find your way to the end.
Find your way, and you had to go to this one bar in Santa Monica, and like I'd had friends who were like that were like determined to figure out how to win. You know what I mean? And it was like I was like, no, I got a cooler. I'm just gonna carry my cooler and drink fucking 6-pack of beer while I do it. Yeah, that was super rad. So that's the thing that you can do in LA. But I feel like that has spread out a lot. Like I think like Portland's more like that now, and Austin's more like that, and there's more places that are more like that now.
Mm-hmm.
you know, that kind of goes a little bit to like a concept that I talk about a lot on the podcast, where it's like, you know, me and you are pretty close to the same age. And, you know, when we were younger, we had only been exposed to the things that had come before us, obviously.
Right.
And then the kids now, they've got 60 years of counterculture to draw from. You
Right.
know, like,
yeah, sure.
you know, when I started listening to music, there was punk rock and there was heavy metal. And that was like
Right.
it and then it was like, oh, look, there's this new thing called death metal. Oh, there's a new thing called grindcore. There's a new thing called doom metal. Oh, there's street punk and there's melodic pop punk and there's like all this different stuff. And, you know, we kind of got to see all that stuff come into the world. And like, you know, you get a kid who's 21, 22 now, and it's like, he's got access to every single bit of that. I think it's awesome. And I think that's why there's so much cool shit getting made now, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's incredible both ways. Like being on the front end of it, like with skateboarding, I think I started, I'm going to say I started when I was like 10, maybe. And like, I just went across the street. I didn't have a skateboard and I saw a kid trying an ollie and like he was getting half an inch off the ground. And I thought like, like the raddest magic trick you've ever seen, but it's not a fucking magic trick. You know what I mean? Like my mind was completely blown and I was full in. And, you know, I mean, skateboarding's still progressing, but from like, that year when like street ollies were invented, which is probably close to when this was happening, so much shit was going down. Like everything was brand new. And like the same thing happened to me with snowboarding. I started snowboarding when I was like 17, 18. There would be 2 people at the mountain. I mean, most mountains didn't even let you do it at the time. So like, we didn't know what those fucking things could do. So, you know, we were jumping off shit 20 feet to flat, like eating our knees and like, you know, breaking our chins open and blowing our faces off because we were trying to skateboard. Like now people land down shit that's like that. And guess what? It's like a slide. We just thought like, oh, you know, the board's not going to come off your feet so you can jump off fucking anything. And we did. And it was dumb. And we just got laid out all the time. But, you know, we figured out with, you know, the beginnings of what things could do. So like now I'm super interested. Like I still thought like my son was a competitive skateboarder and I follow skateboarding more than he does now. Like, cause I just think it's so incredible the stuff what guys are doing. And same with snowboarding. Like they've taken it to such, I mean, life and death kind of level, actually. Like it's almost like terrifying what they're doing with it now.
Yeah. Like snowboarding it's so gnarly to me. It was one of those things where, it was the skate shop that I got all my stuff from when I was growing up. They had 1 or 2 snowboards in there in like 1983, you know, and it was like, it basically just looked like an ironing board. I mean, they were literally shaped like they had a pointy nose and like like a wedge tail, they looked like surfboards really. And I was like, I don't know, that's kind of weird. And there'd be videos on in the shop sometimes of snowboarding, and I was like, oh, like, you know, they're like riding these like choppy ass half pipes and like getting like a foot of air. And then the skate video would come on and it'd be like, you know, Steve Caballero getting like 7 feet of air. And I was like,
smooth really as shit doing
competition for my attention here. Right. And then once snowboarding became more of a thing and I got older, I was like, you know, like it seemed like an expense that was going to be outside of my reach because my boys were both sponsored skateboarders by the time they were like 10 and 12. So we were full in on skateboarding and like, we want to snowboard. We want to snowboard. And I was like, that means I have to snowboard and you 2 have to snowboard. And that means lift tickets for 3 people on the weekend. And I was like, let's stick with skateboarding. Yeah. And then one time I went to a friend's cabin and there was a snowboardable spot and he had a snowboard. And I was like, well, here's my chance to try it. I was like, I've surfed my whole life. I've skateboarded my whole life. I've played ice hockey my whole life. I know how the balance of this sport works. I bet I can do it. And I was like, immediately could do it. I was like, fuck, now I want to do this all the time.
Yeah, it's fun. But yeah, you, as far as doing it with your kids and especially like if they're like skating on that level, like my son competed in snowboarding too. So like, And when you're talking about the expense and the fucking time, like we went in Vermont, so like that's where he competed. I live in New Jersey. That's 6 hours away when it's not snowing and there's no New York traffic. Like I was going every weekend of every winter the whole time while I was working to get him up there. And dude, you're buying 2-3 boards and he's growing the whole time. Like he was competing for the time he was like 10 and he started 10, I think up to like 14 or something. So like, dude, the expense was crazy. Like we were pretending to be rich. Like everybody else on the mountain, it was like all these old ladies and like pink coats with the fur and like little rhinestones, like screaming at like 8-year-olds to spin off 60-foot gaps and shit. Like, you know, it was a whole different kind of world I wasn't ready for.
Dude, yeah. Well, you know, my daughter had a horse, so I understand exactly what you're talking about. Literally acting like a rich person. I was like, yeah. I don't know how we afford this. I don't even want to know how we afford this. It's better if I don't know.
Right. Yeah. I wonder what that. Well, that would have been a short conversation. My son asked for a horse. That would have been real quick.
Yeah, my ex-wife, my kid's mother, she grew up around horses, and then she had, like, when we moved out to the valley, and she kind of wanted to stop working and just be a stay-at-home mom because I was kind of pulling in enough cash to do that. She got a part-time job at like at a ranch like up in the Topanga Canyon. And yeah, I knew at that point it was just a matter of time until there was a horse on my fucking payroll.
Wow. Okay.
And so, yeah. And then, you know, my daughter started riding, and then she had some talent, and, you know, then there was a horse in my life, and they eat a lot, and, you know, they get sick, and yeah.
Dude, I have a little dog that's 16 pounds. That's hard enough to deal with, dude. A horse, like a vet bill for a horse. Holy shit!
You don't even want to know, my man. And
I do. Guess what? I do. What was the heaviest vet bill, dude?
I never saw it. It was kept from me on purpose.
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure.
But like, you know, they need horseshoes all the time. There's like, not only is there immediate expenses you don't see coming, but there's like constant maintenance. It was a nightmare. And, you know, I am the most non-horse type person in existence, you know, like I was super excited that it was very healthy for my daughter to have something like that to do.
Sure.
And I'm glad that I did it. And she actually started writing again not too long ago. She just finished nursing school and is like working and stuff. So she's using her own money this time to to do horse stuff, which is fantastic. Cool.
But is there? Do you ever think like there's a time if you ever get like the side eye from your daughter about your parenting, you just go like, I gave you a horse. You had a horse. Like, I win as a parent. Best dad ever. You had a horse. Yeah. You always win that battle.
My daughter is the amazing thing about my daughter and my relationship is there has never been a moment of negativity ever in our relationship. When she was growing up, I never had to raise my voice ever. She always got good grades. She never got in trouble. So I'm sure every parent who's raised a child, that child had something that was like, you did this thing to me. Right. But she's never expressed to me, like, I wish you had, like, you know, so we have this it's like, it's such a good relationship that it makes me wonder if there's this shit I don't know. I don't know. The only thing I can say about my daughter, and this is the thing that I always, when I'm talking to other dudes who have daughters, I always try to put in their ear as a learning experience that I had was, there is always this funny running family joke where it's like, fathers don't want their daughters to like date and have boyfriends, and any guy who comes to my house is going to have to, you know, get through me, and, you know, I'll be on the porch cleaning my shotgun when their first boyfriend comes to pick her up for a first date. And that was always like the joke around, you know, our house. Like, you know, And I never meant that. Like I was just busting her chops. And then what I found out was, when she was 17 years old, she'd had a boyfriend for like 3 years, and I had no idea. I'd never met him. Was not able to offer any advice to her on any level about. And I was like, well, that was a fuck up.
Right.
That was probably a fuck up.
Yeah.
And so I see dads doing that, and I'm like, no, man, that's not how you fucking handle it. Trust me. You want to be as open as possible, because that's how you're going to get to know the kid.
Sure.
The other way around, you're going to find yourself shut out.
Yeah, that's, if they encounter weirdnesses or problems, they'll, you need them that open line of communication for sure.
Turned out her first boyfriend was a fucking dickhead.
Well, maybe that's why it was also held from you. Maybe not just the joke.
Maybe. Her fiance now is like, he's essentially like a younger version of me. Like,
nice.
He's got like circle jerk and black flag tattoos, and he's a skater. And he's into hot rods and shit. He's a super nice kid, but he is friends. He grew up with my sons, who are older than my daughter. Her older brothers. He's part of their crew, and so he was a known entity.
So he was vested. Right.
Yeah. The boys were like, I don't know. I know this dude too well. I don't know if this is the guy we went around Peach.
Right.
And I was like, no, man, Jay's fucking cool. So, and it's cool. Like his whole family are all hot rod people. They build hot rods and lowriders, and like it's a really good family it's a good mesh. Like he's a good kid. My daughter's amazingly happy. He's a mechanic at a Ford dealership, like certified Ford mechanic. He's got a really good job. It's weird. Like my kids were over this weekend for Father's Day, and my oldest one turns 32 on Friday, and my middle one turns 30 on Saturday. They're 2 years and 25 minutes apart or something. And so it's like, middle one's married and bought a house, and my daughter's, she's 27. She's going to get married and buying a house, and to see them as grown adults and like having a conversation with them as an adult, and them being adults, everybody in the room is an adult, I think this is my favorite part of being a parent for sure. It's like, now I got a bunch of new friends.
Yeah, the part where you don't have to parent anymore. Yeah, that part's amazing. Yeah, it's super
fucking
easy.
Awesome.
Best part.
Yeah. Oh yeah, trust me. Me and my sons went through the ringer, man, because like they refused to live with their mother when me and her got divorced. So I got to single parent 2 teenage boys who were, little me's.
Right,
I mean? They were skateboarding thugs.
Right. Yeah, that's rough. I wouldn't have wanted parented myself for sure. Like I need to send my parents like a I'm sorry card or something for the shit I did. For sure.
In regard to that, like a little bit, like, and I've brought it up on the show before, like my mom watches and listens to the podcast, and she's like, she is getting to learn stuff about how I grew up outside of the house.
Right.
Cause like, I bailed when I was like 15, and, I lived on the streets for a while, and, kind of did my own thing. And,
that's wild. For how long were you like, you just ran away and
off? Well, that is a hot topic of debate in the family, whether I ran away or whether I was asked to leave. It depends on who you are, how you think that went down. But it was like off and on for, a year or two. And like, I bailed to San Francisco for a while, and like, just fucking street punk it,
just like living in squats and shit.
Yeah.
Wow, that's gnarly.
The best one was like for a while, I basically lived in a tree in Golden Gate Park for like 2 weeks. That was like a thing that you could do back then, because there's like these giant oak trees, right, that are like hundreds and hundreds of year olds, and like people would just make little spots up in the trees. Like one of my neighbors was Kurt from DRI, was like also living in the tree.
Wow.
Yeah, he actually wrote a book called View from the Nest about his time living in the trees of Golden Gate Park.
I find it so wild. There's so many people that have done that, like skaters like Jamie Thomas, Chad Muskin, all those dudes were like just like homeless dudes that wound up becoming these like, famous people that like, I think Chad Muska slept in the park in San Diego for 6 months or a year or something. Like,
yeah, I mean, how bad do you want to do the thing,
Yeah,
like
right.
for me, it definitely wasn't skateboarding. Like I hadn't started being in bands yet, but I knew that's where I was going with it. And I don't know, it was like, to kind of circle back a little bit, but like, my mom listens now and she hears people who I'm friends with, for 35 years that she's known since we were all teenagers, and the things that they've gone on to do. And, I had my friend Adam from that skate rock band, The Faction. He's like a super high powered like lawyer in Vegas, and he's
Really?
Yeah, he's one of the main legal counsel for Punk Rock Saves Lives, the charity.
Oh, cool.
And he's like on their board and stuff. And me and him have been friends, like really good friends, since we were like 15. Well, when I was 15 and he was like 19 or whatever. But he put out my band's records on his label, and back in the day, and we have maintained a friendship for all of our adult lives. And when she was listening to that episode with us, and she texted me and she's like, if I had known in 1985, what the things that you were up to and where they would lead, and that they could be things that could change the world for the better. She's like, I just would have never, I would have never expected that was what was going on. And, cause like you got to remember, like in the 80s, like all the bad guys in TV and movies were punk rockers.
Oh, sure.
Before they were all, gangster rappers, or it was like, even in Terminator, like, the first people that he encounters are like thug punks,
Right.
He steals their clothes and shit, like everything. And so, if you were a parent in the 80s and your kid started showing up with green hair and a mohawk, you were probably terrified,
Sure.
And so I get it from there, from my mom's. My dad was like, he was like a Seattle, like hot rod garage rock dude. So he
was fine with all of it.
Well,
yeah.
I don't know that he was fine with it. I think he was like, it was definitely more like he had to back up my mom, and my mom was just like, I don't, this isn't how I want it to be, because I was a little bit of a hockey prospect, and and so when the punk rock skateboarding thing happened and that took my attention away, they were like, oh, we have a lot invested in this. Like they were really super annoyed that I would rather skateboard and go to punk rock shows than play hockey anymore. But
yeah, that the same thing happened to me and my son. Like we both like, I mean, like I was a good wrestler, soccer player throughout school, and like once high school hit, I didn't give a fuck about any of that shit. Like I wanted to skateboard and then snowboard, and I started surfing at the same time too. I was like, fuck all these team sports. Like I don't want to sit in left field and wait for one fucking ball and, get to go to bat 3 times and do this shit every day, and have some dude yell at me and, somebody hit balls with me as hard as they can. Like, no, like, I want to choose my own fate a little bit. Like, for a lot of kids, I could see like the non-team aspect being a very big thing.
Well, I was a goalie, and I was a goalie kind of on purpose because I wasn't a jock type of kid. Right. And I didn't fit in with like athletic type of people. Like even before I was officially a weirdo and got into punk rock, I was that way anyway. You know what I mean? And so it was like, sure. Like when my sister was a figure skater, and so I was always at the ice rink, and I was like, I would always just rent a pair of skates and skate around. And then at some point, I got off, and there was like a hockey practice after like the public skating session, and I was watching, and I this was probably in like 77, 78. Mm-hmm. And it was when they had the cool goalie masks, like the full face mask style. And like I saw that goalie, and I was like,
well, that's badass.
That looks cool. And he gets to stay on the ice the entire time. Everybody else has to come off and sit down, and nobody bugs him. I was like, it seems like something I could totally like. And that's what I did.
No, and you're a psychopath. Like a goalie in any sport is a psychopath. Like soccer, like any goalie, like all those sports I played, like the goalies were fucking crazy. It's like hit me again, like like I had a friend in college who like he was the goalie for lacrosse. Like he broke 2 cups in one match. Like why
that
would
is
you
the craziest type of goalie you could be. I would never fucking do that.
Dude, if you break 2 cups, if I broke 2 cups, I wouldn't be goalie. Well, I just wouldn't be goalie. Like I don't want to get shit like thrown or kicked at me as hard as anybody can, especially a puck, dude. I mean, what the puck? Does a puck weigh a pound? Like,
no,
fuck that, dude. And but dude, they're hard.
It doesn't feel good. I promise you, it doesn't feel good. No matter what it weighs, it's not pleasant.
I'm sure, dude. Like, no, I wouldn't want to get hit by that shit.
Yeah, I mean, I tore my meniscus in the beginning, right in January of 2020, and so I was like still laid up when the pandemic hit, and so that was like the first season I didn't play hockey. I took about 5 years off when I got divorced to do a band thing. But other than that, I had played hockey consistently from the time I was 7 to the time I was 50.
Really?
And yeah, and then I realized over the pandemic, I was like, I don't miss this at all. In fact, it's kind of awesome because again, I never, in all the 40 some years that I played, I always hated the locker room because I always hated all the other like jockey dudes and all the other jockey shit that went along with being a hockey player. And so like just having all of that and like the pressure of being a goalie and it just like, I realized I was like, oh, this has totally run its course finally,
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's so good for you. It's good for your mind, but like at a certain point, your body can't take anymore. Like I coached and played soccer. I played like men's league till I was 39, and then my knees just got fucked up.
Yeah,
but
it's a rough one for knees and ankles.
But if you're over it, do you watch Letterkenny, and does that relate to what a hockey locker room's like? Because I really like Letterkenny a lot.
What's funny is this is a totally hilarious thing that it happens in my mind. This type of thing. I've watched like one skit of it. And it made me laugh. It didn't have anything to do with hockey, but I swear to God, I kept seeing people talking about Letterkenny, and I didn't know what it was. But because of the name, my brain, what it did was what it said was, oh, that's like some soft indie rock band.
Right.
Like I thought Letterkenny was
Vampire Weekend or something.
I thought Letterkenny was an indie rock band for a long time. And so I was like, I don't even know what that is. It doesn't sound like something I would like.
No,
and then I saw like a skit, and it was, and the skit that I watched was very funny. It's just, I have never bothered to sit down and watch it. There's a bunch of shows I know are really good that I've never.
Dude, that's your homework, and it's all hockey. Like the whole thing is hockey players and like ex-hockey players.
I'm enjoying not being involved in hockey culture. I didn't watch a single game since the pandemic started. I watched one game without a crowd last year at the beginning of the playoffs, and I was like, "This is awful." And I didn't watch.
Yeah,
and then I didn't watch any games this season.
Like I said, I prefer like I coached basketball, baseball, soccer for kids up to high school and played, and like I like to play.
Sure. For
sure. And like I've definitely spent years like watching, but like I don't really care that much. And now like those like I've like seen baseball games like at the bar or whatever, like where there's just nobody, or they had like cardboard heads and shit. Like that's the whole cool part of it is the crowd. And like I think or like even soccer games where they're just playing soccer like in the middle of nothing, like it looks like a high school game or something. Like it's really, really fucking weird.
Soccer is one of those ones where I had to play it as a kid to stay in shape in the off season for hockey. It was like, that was my off season training for the most part. Sure. And soccer, I always like playing well enough, but with watching it,
dude, like don't even fucking say it with the people diving and shit.
Well, not even that. I mean, that's as a hockey player, that is the height of ridiculousness.
Dude, I can't handle it. I can't handle I played like East Coast US, like high school soccer, and really should have played college, but I didn't. but it was like a fucking war. Like if you got knocked down or got blasted out of your shoes, you got the fuck back up. Like these guys get like breathed on and they start grabbing their necks and grabbing their ankles.
But they don't even have to get hit. It could be a pure. They're just trying to sell. They're just trying to sell it to the ref.
But you've got these like IMAX slow-mo cameras like replaying it. It's like, dude, you are fucking up my sport hard. Like you look crazy. Like I think they should get thrown out of the fucking league.
Yeah, I mean, one of the thing about watching it though for me is like I love actually watching like clip shows. Like if they're just showing me the goals and like the plays, like it's amazing. But to sit through a whole soccer game, it's like, you know, the only thing more tedious than that is a football game, and the only thing more tedious than that is trying to watch a baseball game.
Yeah, I would say baseball is easily, and I've watched, I don't know, a million baseball games, and I'm totally out of it now. I don't know what's going on, but like it's the most boring sport in the world. Like, but I love the fact that like people fight in the stands over baseball. Like they're a no hitter, and like there's probably 5 dudes dragged out by their head because they're like punching someone in the stands. At least in Philly for sure. It's like, dude,
Philly's a completely different situation for not just sports, but just life in general. What happens in Philly is a completely different deal than what happens everywhere else. You guys have got something special going on there.
Yeah. It's definitely
I know a lot of Phillies, and so yeah, I'm almost an honorary Philly at this point. You know, but again, like, you know, when I was growing up, before the San Jose had the Sharks, like the Flyers were my favorite team because they were, you know, in the 70s when I started playing, they were the shit. And so that's who I latched onto. And I'm a lifelong Flyers fan. Like for the Eastern Conference, like I don't care about anybody but the Flyers.
Dude,
Sharks on the West Coast.
What about that Rob Zombie movie? He was supposed to make, he was hanging out in Philly at the games all the time. He was supposed to make a movie about, you know, the 80s Flyers.
Bullies movie. I heard about
Oh my God. I was looking forward to that. And I guess it just fell off or whatever happened. But like that I was looking forward to more than most movies.
He's a huge hockey fan.
Yeah.
One of my friend who owned the skateboard shop in Venice, his brother was a scouting coordinator for the Kings. And so, you know, Jim had tickets all the time, and it was like where all of the, you know, players' families were all in the same section. So I would go to games all the time. It's like the most amazing seats. And Rob Zombie was in our section, and it was always like, you know, it's like in the beer line with Rob Zombie. He's a super fucking cool guy, and he's a legit hockey fan. You know what I mean? He's not, He's not one of those fucking posers or whatever. But, yeah, I don't know what happened. I guess now he's making the Munsters or something. That's his new current project. He's making a movie.
Oh, okay. I heard that was coming out. I didn't know that was him. But
yeah, I think it's funny that people are so mad about it. I'm like, don't fucking watch it.
What? I mean, the Munsters was a kids show comedy. Like, why the fuck would people be mad about it? Like,
you know, if you try to change anybody's, you know, feelings about a thing, they'll get mad at you.
I guess so. It's funny. I
had you on for the last like hour and a half, and we've talked about your art for like 2 minutes.
Oh, I don't normally talk about art with artists. Like we have this drunk group that it's Drunkies, and we meet in Tattooed Moms in Philly in this bar that's kind of an old head artist bar anyway for like musicians, whatever. Always has been. And I don't talk about art when I go there. Like those people think and like talk about art all the time anyway. Why do we have to do that? You know, we talk about other shit.
That's fair enough. Enough.
For sure. Yeah, I'd actually rather it be like this, you know, like people have heard me talk about art before, and you know, if they like the work, they've seen it. Like, who gives a fuck what I say about it? Like, I'd rather them, you know, hear me talk about snowboarding or skateboarding.
It is interesting to hear you talk about how you were, you know, like a high level athlete, and that, you know, you went on to coaching and stuff. Because I had exactly the same experience. Like, I coached for a long time. You know, I coached travel hockey teams. Like, I was like goalie coach for travel hockey teams, and you know. And then the parents ruined that for me. Once I was just like, I hate all of you. Like, you rich ass spoiled motherfuckers. Ugh, I couldn't do it. I got to the point where I couldn't do it. You know, and my sons played for a while, and you know, they were playing roller hockey, and the closest place to us when they were little, before they started skateboarding, was the Beverly Hills YMCA. And so I got to be a coach for the Beverly Hills YMCA kids. And that lasted
Holy fuck.
about a season and a half. And I was like, well, I'm either going to quit doing this or I'm going to beat all of you up. Like, that's what's going to happen.
It was right at the end of a baseball season for 8th grade, where I was driving to some dude's house to fight him. Like one of the other parents' house to literally fight. And he was a semi-pro football coach. So I would have lost horribly, but I wanted to take his eyeball. Like while I was going down, I was going to take his fucking eyeball because he deserved it. But yeah, like, I mean, the parents are psycho. Like, I mean, like I've seen parents jump over the fence running at umps, like for 5th grade baseball games, dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't. Fucking 9 years old or something. Or no, what are you, 11? Like 11 years, so what? Like, what if they lose? Who gives a fuck? Like, they're supposed to learn to lose too.
Yeah.
It's completely insane.
Yeah, youth sports was, that was one of the nice things about like my sons. They both like, I was like, I don't know if I want to keep doing this hockey thing like with the coaching, and they were both like, we would way rather have you buy us skateboards, because they were already just on my skateboard all day after school before I got home from work. Once I started skating again and there was a skateboard in the house, they immediately started riding my skateboard all the time. And I was like, okay, cool. Well, let's just start to skate. And then, they took to it like fucking ducks to water, man. Yeah.
And to me, like, even now,
there was no team. There was no team. And there were still definitely when my middle one he was like fully sponsored, and like boards, trucks, wheels, the whole 9 yards.
Okay.
And so there was a lot of other kids in that age group who we would have to go skate with. He didn't really get to the point of competing because I wasn't super hyped on skateboard contests. I don't think that's the type of thing that should be contested.
Right.
But there was a lot of like skate trips to get photos and stuff like that for the brand. And there was a few other dads that were coaches, and I was like, man, your kid's 9, man, and he's fucking rips. Like, leave him alone. Like, don't come up with his lines for him. Like, let him fucking figure out how he wants to skate. It annoyed me.
Even, and it's funny, like, we did the skateboard contest series. Like, we traveled all over the place. So, like, you do see those dudes that, like from my perspective, like,
coach.
Like, I was a coach, and now I have a sport where, like, I can just sit back and watch, and it's awesome. And you did have these dudes who, like, most often weren't skaters themselves. Like, I skated, so I understand, like, for one, it's not just like you're calling a play. Like, you're telling this kid to hit a railing that he's not ready for. You know what I mean? Like, the skate coach dads, like, they don't understand, like, what's right. Like, some tricks work in your mind, some tricks don't. Some are super fucking dangerous. So, like, let the kid figure it out. They're already at this level. Like the series that my son Blake was skating at was like all the kids in the same contest all over the country all the time, because they're just and now they're all the Nike dudes and all that shit. Like, they're just the top level dudes. They can fucking figure it out themselves. Like, they don't need your input, and you don't know anything, and stop screaming, like, just relax, go get a hot dog and chill.
Yeah. I mean, it ended up being really awesome is that, cause I skated, like, that was what me and my sons, that was our bonding time for, there was probably about 5 years where it was like every Sunday we got up and we went and skated all day long on Sunday and, came home and family barbecue. And it was like, that was, until they got old enough to start driving and going with their friends who drove, and they didn't need me anymore to take them places. Which is a sad
time.
It was weird. I was definitely ready to take a break from skateboarding though, because like, I'm one of those people, like, I always say to myself, like, well, I'm just going to go and like, carve the bowls and like, lay low. And then like, an hour and a half later, I'm like,
trying shit.
can I still get a 4-foot backside air
Right,
in
right.
this bowl if I want to?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
it's like, you know, like my palms and wrists were perpetually bruised for like 7 straight years. And it's like, you
Right.
know, I've got to fucking work.
I built a like a 16-foot wide, 4-foot mini ramp in our yard,
Yep.
like
Same.
right before my son turned 10. So
Yep.
I was in my early 30s. So I started skating that all the time because that's like kind of low impact. I'm not going to a fucking skate spot. Like we didn't have that many like parks and all, but like even that, like I'm not going to a park, but like I could ride the mini ramp all the time and like
Yeah.
it's like, oh, I'm just gonna cruise around. But it was there for years. So you start trying, you start getting cocky. And I quit because I thought I broke both my hands at the same time. Like I just tried to kick out of something and the board spun instead of shooting. So I landed on it with like both feet and like kind of did this like twisting back half flip and just like slapped both of my hands as hard as I could, like on the flat. And I was like, oh, like, and it's not even like, oh, I need to go to work. It's like, oh, I need to do everything with my 2 hands. Like it was a fucked up moment. I was like, all right, dude, I like, skateboards are trying to kill you the whole time you're on them.
Yeah. I have on this palm, I have this like giant red spot from exactly that thing. I was like, fucking, and it's always like, okay, one more run and then we're gonna get out of here. And that's always when someone gets hurt. And I was like,
one more try is the curse, man.
Was in this bowl and I was skating and I got out and I grabbed my backpack and I was like gonna go down like the flat wall that went from the pool down to the ground and then out, because it was an indoor skate park, so the pool was elevated. It was a wood bowl, and I just like, a thing that I could do with my eyes closed, stepped on my board, went to roll down the flat wall, and just like my balance is a little off and I went straight down and like fell like 9 feet and slipped my hand. And I have a permanent like broken blood vessel tattoo in my palm from that. And I broke ribs on my right side twice, exactly a year apart from each other. And that was definitely one of those, like, maybe you ought to dial it back a little bit, dude.
Yeah, like broken ribs are every breath you have broken ribs, man. I had broken ribs one time for New Year's Eve, and we went to a friend's house and we had a couple beers and like the kids were kind of young, I got the hiccups with broken ribs.
Oh no,
dude, the sounds that were coming out of me were incredible. Like every time like the hiccup pop was a brand new like screech or scream, or like it was like I actually like I went outside in the back and like hid in the backyard. I thought I was going to scare the kids. I just like walked home like screaming every 10 seconds or whatever the hiccups popped, man. But
I can't think of anything worse than that,
dude. It was brutal. It was absolutely brutal. It lasted like 2 hours. It was horrendous.
Yeah, broken ribs are the worst fucking thing that's ever happened to me.
Yeah.
What's crazy is like around that same time I got like a walking pneumonia from like overworking myself, and that felt almost exactly the same.
Really?
It was the exact same type of pain.
Every time you're breathing in,
you can't move. Like, you can't. It's just like everything you do, you're like, it was insane. But the first time I broke my ribs was like, that was legit the most injured I've ever been in my entire life. Like they thought I ruptured my spleen. I broke 3 fingers. Oh
God.
I also like got a small fracture on my elbow. Like I locked up on a backside air into a bowl and went down on my right-hand side, and my right arm was underneath me. So it just destroyed everything on my whole right side of my body. And my elbow went into my bottom 2 ribs and just popped them. And
oh my God.
Yeah.
So like your hand went down and posted up and you went through your like forearm.
Yep.
Oh my God. Dude.
It was trapped underneath me, and it just like all my weight went onto my elbow, and my hand was underneath too. And it just like broke 3 fingers, totally got a small fracture in my elbow, broke 2 ribs. And luckily I didn't hit my head.
Yeah. Aside from that, it's like worst case scenario, but yeah, hitting your head,
it was shitty. Yeah. And it was like, my wife wasn't really working at the time. And so I was I was off work for like 2 full weeks. It was not a good deal.
Yeah, I'm sure.
It sucked.
Did you do you know who Lizzie Armanto is? She skates for Birdhouse for Tony Hawk's thing.
Yeah. Totally. I love that women skaters rip so hard now. I fucking love it.
Oh my God. I just watched the contest. It was like an Olympic qualifier for I guess they call it park. It's like the bolts, and these women are destroying shit. But Lizzie Armanto, that they just released a video where she Elliot Sloan has his own mega ramp. Have you seen that thing?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Dude, she kind of
is that where she hit and fell?
Yeah,
and broke her pelvis and she completely destroyed herself.
Did you see it? Like, I mean, I wouldn't wish it. Yeah, it's like
that
one
was
of the
gnarly.
Most brutal slams I've ever seen. She broke her femur off. Like, she broke the ball off.
Oh,
like when she came to the ground, but like that slam is like two of the most horrendous slams I've ever seen in the same slam. Like, I think she fell like 20 feet or something.
Yeah. That is one of those things where the likelihood of it happening are so slim that they don't even really provide any safety measure for it. You know what I mean? Like, there was no netting or anything to catch somebody from doing that because the physics involved in that happening are almost impossible. But when I watched it, I was like, oh, dude, that was so gross.
Yeah, I think
terrible.
I don't think you're gonna see just gaps just left open like that anymore.
There's gonna be netting on every super ramp in that spot for sure. One time, dude, I used to skate with Wee Man a lot. He was part of of our skate crew. Awesome. And dude, we were out one time, he fucking broke his femur, and that was fucking gnarly too, man. That is not the bone you want to break no matter who you are. That's a serious, because I mean, you have so much muscle tissue surrounding that bone that there's so much tissue damage and just damage when the amount that it takes to break that bone creates so much damage I've never seen anybody in pain like he was when he broke his fucking femur.
Yeah, I'm sure it's got to be like breaking a 2x4, like that pressure and the sound alone has to be enough to make everybody there puke.
Was unpleasant. As a lifetime skateboarder, I've seen any number of unpleasant compound fractures and all kinds of shit,
Yeah, I broke my left ankle twice and tore all the ligaments both times I did it. Like, I've definitely half the time I was skateboarding, I was laid up. Like, I wasn't smart enough to skate within my skill level. It was like, let's try this.
No skateboarder is. Yeah. That's why skateboarding's so great.
Well, like, I mean, we didn't have skate parks, so you were basically just jumping off stairs, and if somebody had a ramp, you kind of go hit that every now and again. But like, it's not like you skated every day. Like, now you can see this progression because of these amazing parks that kids can kind of step up their game and slide out of stuff, and you're not losing skin every time you fall. Like, we didn't know what kickouts were. Like, we didn't kick out. Like, if you jumped off, so you tried to put both feet on the board, like, we didn't kick out.
I never got super into street skating. I was definitely always like a vert and pool guy forever. I skated a little, like I was in a teenager in the launch ramp generation, like 85 to 88. And so I did a lot of like
snapping my ankles. Launch ramps were the ankle snappers for me both times.
Yeah, wrist. I broke my wrist a bunch of times on launch ramp stuff because there's, it's impossible to bail when you, you know what I mean? Like, when you fall off of a launch ramp, there's like, you can't knee slide out of it. You can't do anything. No. You're going to hit a bunch of concrete and whatever happens.
Yeah. And you're coming down with the full force of your body weight straight to the ground, basically.
Yeah. So I got a lot of, and like, so many ankle rolls that like, even now, like I couldn't sneak up on anybody. I get up in the morning and I walk down the hall and it sounds like goddamn microwave popcorn is going on.
Yeah. That's what my right ankle's like. I like how all those launch ramps all had to be 4 feet. Cause that way you didn't have to cut the piece of plywood it was one less cut. So like they were all 4 feet high. So like you go fast, you're going 8 feet.
Exactly. Yeah. And, you know, so I was never a handrail guy. Like I, I studied and worked at learning how to do kick flips and heel flips. And as soon as I learned them with consistency, I never did either of them. I never did flip
Right.
tricks ever again.
Nah,
Like, you know,
it
you
wasn't
give me a
much of
good
fun.
red painted curb and I'll do slappy grinds and, you know, board slides on it all day, but
Yeah.
I'm not doing a kick flip down a set of stairs
Right.
or handrail ever. Like
Right.
never, ever am I doing either
Yeah.
of the. I just watched dudes just get fucking throw themselves down staircases and handrails and I was like, that just doesn't. I don't see where landing the trick is gonna pay off for 4 hours of throwing myself down 12 stairs. Like,
Yeah, I mean,
there's not gonna be enough payoff for me.
I
I'll go
think
back to the
that's
half pipe.
yeah. I mean, that's the big difference now versus like say when we were kids. Like there is kind of money there if you like. It's turned into stuntman. It's like skill versus like death wish shit. You know, like some of the stuff that goes down is insane. Really.
Skateboarding is amazing. Like, you know, it's like, you know, when I was growing up, you watch the PAL videos and like, you know, all those guys were doing like fully pads, elbow, helmets, everything. They're doing, you know, 540s and 720s. And you're like, that's rad. And now you watch skateboarding and there's no pads on concrete, like 720s. And I'm like, it's
I
insane.
probably started seeing that like 12-ish years ago, like people skating big bowls and just like doing the slide rundown thing. That fucking freaked me out. Like the padless, no helmet, nothing, in like these huge like 12-foot bowls and shit. Like that like just that skill, like that to me was a trick too. Like doing that every
Not
time.
dying.
Like, how do you not lose your fucking teeth there? Like sometimes. You know?
Yeah, I mean, the first time I saw somebody do a McTwist without any pads on, I was like, that's like a death wish. And now it's like, you know, 12-year-olds are doing it and everybody's just like, yeah, that's how it gets done now. And then I'm like, I don't get it at all. I love that we've just talked about
crazy.
Well, dude, we were just talking about that when my kids were over. Like a 1080 is just a trick now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I remember we were at the X Games watching when Tony Hawk.
You saw that?
Yeah, we saw that live.
Fuck, that's awesome.
You know, because it was in San Francisco, and I took my sons, and like we went up to the X Games and stayed at my sister's house, and like just rode the train into the city, and like my two sons, my brother-in-law, and my friend Jim, and like, you know, it was super fun. It was one of the funnest trips we ever went on, and yeah, we were totally we watched the 900 happen. It was pretty incredible.
That's
and
insane.
Now it's like, you know, and then the super ramp thing came along and everybody figured out, well, that's where you learn how to do a 900 because you have all the time and speed in the world to do it. And then it just became like, once everybody figured out the body physics of how to get yourself to do it on that giant ramp, it just became a trick that you do on the half pipe. And then it turned into like the 1080, and it's like, you know, these like 9-year-olds doing 1080s on super ramps. You know, what the fuck is the world
my son went to Woodward every year, and one year his cabin was right next to, they had like a mini mega ramp that probably had like, I'm going to say the biggest gap might be like 30-ish feet or something. And then I think the quarter's like 18 or 20 versus, you know, I think the big ones are 25, 26. And Tom Shar, who's now, I don't know, probably 22. This is 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning. I'm half hungover. I'm going to pick my kid up. And Tom Shar's there, and I've never heard of him, spinning 1080s. And putting him down and then just sliding out. And I like instantly I'm awake, like, what in the fuck did I just see? And he was up to my belly button high. Like this little tiny kid. I had no idea anyone was even pushing 1080s at the time. And I watched him for like an hour, like putting 4 wheels down and just you know, one way or another.
Like just a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. I really was like, you know, I was like, we're going to like, he wound up doing it on that ramp, I think, later. But I was like, dude, I want to see the first 1080 because that's impossible. Like it's impossible. And also you shouldn't be able to do it when you're 10 or might have been 12 or something. He was a little
Dude,
tiny
totally.
kid. That was crazy.
Totally.
But like I'll enjoy that shit more than any World Series.
Oh yeah, I don't watch any sport. My new thing is F1. I like Formula One. I started doing sim racing during the pandemic, and so I sim race every Saturday with my brother-in-law and another guy, and we're trying to build our league. But yeah, it's just like totally. I never cared about fucking Formula One racing after I was like 8 years old. And now I'm like obsessed with it. Like I'm totally obsessed with Formula One racing. And my wife's like, where did this come from? Where did this come from? I was always a drag racing guy. My dad was a drag racer in the 60s before I was born. And he started taking me to drag races when I was like, literally old enough to be able to kind of put up with the noise. And then I started going to drag racing on my own in my 20s. And then I started taking my daughter, and it was like, we would do that twice a year. I'd take her to the drag races. Now she does that with her, fiance. They go to the drag races. It's like, we're drag racing people, and then all of a sudden, like the Formula One thing happened because of that goddamn Netflix show, Drive to Survive. I was bored one night and I turned it on and I got major hooked on it. This is an amazing show. It was like, they did such a good job on that show of like making you kind of, care about all of the stuff going on in Formula One racing that wasn't necessarily the racing, like who are the drivers and who are the team managers, and like it's a really good show. And then I was like, okay, that's it. I guess that's what I do now. That's my old guy thing.
Simulated style.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, there we go. Me and Buddy Nestor just sat and talked about skateboarding and sports for.
I am so glad we didn't talk about art. Jesus, that would have been so boring if we did that.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. Like, I had Brian Mercer on, and I didn't know you and Mercer were such good friends, and he was like, and then you like when I had my mistake with recording him, and you like messaged me, and you were busting my balls about wasting Mercer's time. I was like, and then when I talked to Mercer again, we were talking about like. About you, and like I had no idea you guys were such good friends. And me and Mercer, me being a Flyers fan, like we in the art scene, we were immediately friends because we had that in common. But yeah,
well, yeah, especially like in the arts, like you don't get to talk to people about sports, even skateboarding or anything sports wise, or like people don't even like. My girlfriend doesn't like. She said to me one day, like, I don't understand why people like sports or like why people watch sports. And I always wear Phillies hats. And one day she said, like, I really like your pea hat. It's almost like she came from a planet where sports didn't exist. And like, that's how most of my art friends are. Like, they don't understand like competition on that kind of level.
Yeah. I mean, aside from hockey, I never cared about any sports. And even when it came to hockey, I didn't care that much outside of goaltending. Like I never followed the stats for players. I only ever paid attention to the goalies, who got traded where, who was playing good, what their numbers were. Because I was just, it was, it's an individualized position in a team sport. And so that's why it always spoke to me. And like, I never watched football. I mean, I pre like puberty, like every kid pretty much watches sports because it's it's like you just do whatever everybody else is doing.
Yeah, that's
like I watch football and I watch basketball and all that stuff. But as soon as I started playing goalie, I lost all interest in every other sport on earth. Until skateboarding came along, and I don't think of skateboarding as a sport.
Oh, I do now. I mean, like
it is now, but skateboarding to me was always a lot like surfing. It's like part of what your life is. It's like, you know what I mean? It's like, because you don't have, there's no set time. Like it's game time. You got to be at the field and like everybody else shows up and it's time to go. And it's so like, you can just get on your skateboard and skateboard whenever you want. And we had a half pipe in our backyard when my sons were growing up too. And it was like, I'd get home from work. I was in video games for like 15 years. I would get home from work. I would, put my stuff down, say hi to the family, blah, blah, blah. And then the boys would be padding up like as soon as I got home, and they'd be like, okay, we're going to show you what we learned today. And then I would like grab a couple beers. I had a lawn chair on one of the platforms. I made an extra wide platform, and I just would sit up there and eat my dinner and drink a couple beers and watch them show me the tricks that they'd learned during the day. And
it's the most fun. Like, dude, watching the kids skate on our ramp, I could have watched that forever. And it was totally awesome. Betting them money to do tricks that were way too hard for them, and watching many times them take my $5, $10, $20 doing something that like they'll remember forever, because they never should have been trying it in the first place, but they, put it down sometime.
Yeah. I mean, that's like how my son Jordan, like, that was how he got so good so fast, was like that was how he got my approval. You know what I mean? It was like, he's like, oh, my dad thinks this thing is cool. And so if I do it a lot and I get better, I get a lot of positive reinforcement from my dad. And it worked. I mean, he got really good really fast. He got really good. And everywhere we'd go, like, cause he was, not only was he young, he was small. And
right. Yeah. It's wild seeing little kids rip. Like, seeing people rip is awesome, but like watching little kids rip is completely crazy. Have you seen this kid, Gavin Botker?
The name sounds familiar.
He's just destroying shit. I think he's like 12 or 13, and like, I don't know, just got second in some like Olympic trial contest with everybody, like with 100 dudes in it or something.
Yeah, like right after that X Games where Tony Hawk did the 900, my sons used to, I worked in Santa Monica, like 3 blocks from the Boys and Girls Club, and they had a massive skate park there with an actual vert ramp. Okay. And I like, sometimes their mom would drive them down after school and drop them off at the Boys and Girls Club, and then when I got off work, I'd walk over and pick them up and we'd go home. And one of the days, like, Tony Hawk was on a promotional tour for like Swatch. It was like this Tony Hawk Swatch. So Tony Hawk was going to come and skate at the Santa Monica Boys and Girls Club. And I was like, oh, rad. So me and a couple people from work walked over to watch that. And my kids were there. And Jordan was like standing on the platform, and like Tony Hawk was right next to him. And he was like, he just dropped in front of Tony Hawk and like blasted this fucking big ass backside air. And, he was like 9, and like literally like the next time he was on the platform and Tony Hawk was standing next to him, he was like, just like immediate Tony Hawk was just like, dude, that was sick. Like, and they started talking, and then it was like, and then the people there filming started filming Tony Hawk and my son. And then like, it was like on the news, and like my son was on the news.
Holy shit. Tony Hawk. That's amazing.
And, and then like right after that, I was like, okay, this is a moment. And so like, I figured out the birdhouse. I got the birdhouse mailing address, and I was like, write him a letter, man. Tell him that's who you were, and you saw him to do the 900, and like, just like make that connection, man. That's how life works. Is you get a moment and you make a connection, and that can take you someplace, Yeah.
And it's wild doing it through snail mail.
Dude, it was totally snail mail. And he did. And Tony Hawk sent back this big package, and he was like, dude, that's like so rad.
Shit, that's amazing.
Totally, like, he sent him one of the swatches. He's like, I totally remember. That was super rad. You were fucking rad. You ripped. Like a signed poster of like the 900 sequence.
Oh, cool.
It was like and it was like to Jordan, like Tony Hawk, and like tons of stickers and shirts.
That
got
is
like the biggest
so
flow
incredible.
package. That kind of shit, like when you're a little kid, like it's like a fucking life changer, man. Like he was just like, what? How am I now friends with like one of the most famous skateboarders on earth, Like,
yeah. Dude, when you're a little kid, it's amazing. But like, I just drove through Carlsbad, I don't know, 3 weeks ago, and I was like, I might be near Tony Hawk. This is awesome. He's out here somewhere, maybe. If he's not traveling, I'm near Tony Hawk, and this is rad.
I don't know if you're aware, but on his Twitter, like twice a year, he'll tweet stories about experiences he's had as Tony Hawk.
Oh yeah.
Oh God, it's so funny. They're like, dude, you look like Tony Hawk, and he's like, yeah, that's weird. And they're like, you should try to meet him. Like, it's like all this like random shit where they're like, oh, you're that famous skateboarder guy. Like,
Right. Or
Larry
yeah,
Falcon.
right. Yeah. It's hilarious.
Yeah. I mean,
And
the times that I've run into him over the years, because I used to, I was from San Jose, and Steve Caballero lived not too far from me. And, you would end up
right,
skating at places with Steve Caballero. And
right.
then, of course, I became good friends with the other guitar player in his band. And so,
Sure.
Steve Caballero was like in my circle a little bit.
That's
And so,
that's insane to me. That's completely insane
I
to me,
know
by the way.
it was insane to me at the
And
time.
that's got to be like full Bones Brigade
Oh,
era.
it was
like,
right in the middle of all
yeah,
that.
the
Yeah.
time of the faction and everything like is holy.
Yeah. And so it's like, there was a water park called Raging Waters in San Jose.
Oh yeah, with the big elbow ramp, right?
Yeah. And so it was like, I would get to go session that ramp just because
no
I could get that invite. It was like, and so, I'd just be standing on the platform I was not in the league of anybody else in the sessions. Like I was in the scrub division with like a bunch of other guys who weren't that good.
Dude, it's Steve Caballero. He's still fucking insane. He's like in his 50s. Like he still rules.
Yeah, dude.
He'd be hard to be in his category for sure.
And I'd be on the platform and be like Christian Asoy, Steve Caballero, Tony Hawk, Gator, like every single megastar skateboarder. And I'm like, what am I even doing I should go down and sit where everybody's watching.
Can you explain that raging? So it was in a water park? Like, you like, how did that work? Like, did you just go, like, if you had a skateboard, did you just go in and pay to skateboard, or you had to like pay to go in the water park, or how that?
It wasn't open to the public. It was a demo ramp. So like they would just
be
like, this is a
huge.
It was fucking massive, dude. And it was one of those things where it was like, they would just have demos and they could get people to come to the water park to watch the skateboarding. And they'd, then they'd go on the water slides too. And it was the only way you were getting on that ramp ever is if you got the invite to go ride with the real dudes. And that's the only reason why I ever was on that ramp.
That's awesome. Dude, at the time,
that ramp
that was like
fucking crazy.
Yeah, that was like Animal Chin Ramp and that ramp, because it had that, it was, like bowed out or whatever. It had that kind of.
It was like the closest thing at the time, because all the skate parks were closed.
Yeah.
It was the closest thing at the time to like a bowl, like an actual bowl made for skateboarding.
Yeah, it's almost weird they didn't put ends on it, because as big as it was, like, I don't know.
They could have totally just put those ends on there.
Sure. Yeah, dude,
I don't know if the imagination was there for that yet, though.
Right.
I don't think people had thought that you could do that yet.
Yeah, I don't think there were. Yeah, I don't think there were wooden vert bowls.
I remember definitely the first time I saw a wood bowl, and I was 30. You know what I mean? It wasn't when I was 17. But yeah, there was a skate park out here by us in. It's 15 miles over the hill from us in Simi Valley, but it was like a massive like birch, 9 foot deep end, 6.5 shallow end, like kidney.
Okay.
We skate that all the time. That was one of the funnest bowls. All pool coping. It was so killer. And then I was super fortunate. The company Supreme. Everybody knows Supreme. Their main store
the $1 billion company that came out of a skate shop, which I still don't fucking understand.
Dude, $100 underwear.
Did you see they sold all their skateboards through like Sotheby's? Like every one of their skateboards, and it was ridiculous. Like somebody bought it for like $500,000 or something.
Jesus Christ.
They're decks.
Their main
I don't
store,
understand marketing.
Their main store in LA on Fairfax, they have a wood bowl. And,
oh, really? Oh, that's cool.
And one day, me and my friend Jim went down to hang out with Eric Dressen because he was working at a tattoo shop like 5 stores down or whatever. And Eric's like, "You guys want to go skate the fucking Supreme Bowl?" And we were like, "Fuck, that's rad." So we went and skated the Supreme Bowl. I was like, "This is fucking killer." I'm skating, because Eric Dressen was also part of my skate crew when I was growing up. Like my sons call him Uncle Eric.
Really?
And, yeah.
Oh, that's so sick.
And just like that was like a weird thing to like have watched him growing up and then like done very long, serious times of skateboarding with Eric. Like there was another skate park here out in the valley for a while in Northridge, like 2 miles from where I live now. And they had a vert ramp and just like a whole park. They had like a launch ramp into like a foam pit, all that shit. And for like one year, my son's birthday, I rented the entire park. And like, I just told Eric, I was like, get every pro you can think of who wants to come and skate for free. Cause my sons will never forget that. And their friends will never forget it. And so it was like, it was just like Eric dressing and like all the Dogtown guys and like all these like fucking pro skaters, like for like my son's birthdays and shit. It was super fucking fun.
Oh, that's amazing. That's so cool.
Yeah. Skateboarding has brought me a lot in my life. Like punk rock has brought me more than I could have ever imagined, but skateboarding has also, I've had a lot of really good moments in my life through skateboarding.
I think they're both really similar in the way that like it makes you like willing to fail, you know, to find a way to make something
instead of being out on the sidelines watching it. They're both participation things.
Yeah, but I mean like more like life shit. Like I don't think there's a lot of people that like jumped down a set of stairs 45 times to try something and kept eating shit until they finally make it. You know what I mean? So there's like it takes a certain kind of person, but like after you do that shit all the time, like you're willing to try things I think that a lot of people aren't willing to try, like just in regular life stuff.
Right. Yeah. There's a level of perseverance you learn from skateboarding for sure. For sure you do. Because nothing's easy. And nothing's safe.
and you're also not failing alone. Like a lot of times there's a bunch of people walking by that just see you eat shit, but there's also people that see you make it too. So like, you know, like the embarrassment stuff, like the failure stuff, like I think for anybody to be like successful at anything, like they have to keep failing to win, you know?
Yeah, you definitely have to be comfortable with it for sure.
Yeah.
You know, like I know for me, for sure, with like, you know, I've talked about this a little bit too, where, you know, I am naturally an introverted person. And as a kid, that was really difficult. It's probably also why I became a goalie, is because it kept me from having to deal with other people. But, like I realized that if I want to be in a punk rock band and get on stage, or if I want to approach bands about doing artwork for their band, or, you know, all of these things require me to not be an introvert. Like I'm going to have to get past this. And so I kind of just started like faking it. Like I just pretended I wasn't to myself. I'd be like, I'm just going to, because I want to do these things. And so I had to, in order to do all of the things I wanted to do in life, I had to stop being that way. And, you know, worked out for me. I know that I'm not saying that it would be easy for anybody, but, you know, even now it's like, you know, I don't want to go be around a bunch of people until I am. And then I'm super excited.
And then it's fine.
On the episode I had with Chet Zari, was just he's saying that. He's like, you know, every time I have a gallery show, my wife's like, we got to go. And he's like, I don't want to go. And then he's like, once we're there, I'm glad I went. But it's like, you know, there's that anxiety of like, you know, being an introverted person where you're like, this is going to be a commitment in my energy, you know, and you don't always know if you want to make that commitment, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I'm super social. My girlfriend, Rachel, she's not, but all of her friends are artists. And every time we go to an art show, she knows everybody and has a super good time. But yeah, I almost have to drag her out for sure to get there. But yeah, once she's there, like we don't hang out together. She just runs around, you know, we run around and do our things and she has a blast and it's fine. You know, just got to get there.
That's the thing is like, once you get me there, I'm insanely social.
Yeah.
You'll see when we're at Psycho Las Vegas and I have like 100 of my friends in my proximity. I'm like, whoa.
Well, yeah. And you know, you're going to a spot where it's all like-minded people. So, you know, you're on the same shit. So like,
it's amazing. Like I will have friends working the fest. I will have friends playing the fest. I will have friends hanging out at the fest. I that, you know, that and Maryland Death Fest and Punk Rock Bowling Music Festival. Like those three events like encompass like my entire friend group
Right.
from the last like 37 years. Like
Right.
I will know tons of people at all of those, at any three of those events. And it's like,
Right.
I don't go to Maryland. Like I went to Maryland once cause I was on tour with my band and we, that was the midway point.
Yeah.
And it sucks because again, like, I like death metal and it's, I will have a shitload of friends there, but Psycho and like if I only went to Psycho and punk rock bowling for the rest of my life, like I would be able to see all of my friends twice a year, every 6 months for the rest of my life.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like I go to Psycho and I feel like it like saves me money and saves me time. Cause like there's so many bands that I want to see that I would normally, like if there wasn't Psycho, I would have to go to 50 shows.
You'd be out every weekend in Philly.
Yeah,
show.
So now, and and it's like more money when you spread it out across 50 different shows. Like now, I kind of get it all in. Or, I'll see a couple bands here and there, but it saves me free time and just packs it all into one weekend. So
that is totally one of the things that because I always hated festivals forever, and then once me and my wife started going, I was like, this ends up working out way better because like I can see all my friends and I can see all the bands I want to see once or twice a year. Mm-hmm. And I don't have to, cause where we're at in LA now, I'm 25 miles from any decent venue. Yeah. And so in LA, that's a commitment, and it's like, if I want to go,
right.
I used to live right across the street from the Echo and the Echoplex, which was amazing because every band I ever wanted to see was there constantly.
Yeah.
But even then, like once I started the goalie mask business, I stopped going to shows. I just didn't have time. That goalie mask painting business swallowed my entire life for 7 years. But yeah, man, I'm stoked. I'm stoked to go and I'm stoked to hang out with you. Is your girl coming with you? Because I'd like to be stoked to meet her too.
Yeah, sure. We're going out. There's a bunch of friends going out. Work. Yeah, she's amazingly talented for sure.
Is she acrylics too, or is she oil? And
nah, she's fully using all the tricks that oils have to offer for sure. She's all oils.
So you guys are like split household.
Well, we're not even playing the same sport. Like she's going like full hyper, glowing, radiant colors, oils, and I'm doing gray, abstracted bullshit, in acrylic. So yeah, we're on totally opposite spectrums.
Her work is beautiful, and if she wants to ever be on the show, like just tell her, and she can be on anytime she wants to. I'd love to have her on. Has she been on Chet's show?
Yeah, she was on I'm gonna say 2 years ago, something like that.
Yeah, she's a badass for sure.
Yeah,
she's a badass.
I agree.
I think I'm gonna let you go, dude. I think I've taken up enough of your time. It was fun. I get to see you in a month anyway, so
cool.
2 months, I guess.
I'm glad we didn't do this hungover in the morning in Vegas at a metal
in a swimming pool.
Sorry, I shot your idea down. I was just like, dude, like I will be at worst. Like, please don't record me in Vegas, at all.
Right, that was
the time.
I didn't really think about that because I was like, you know what? I'm going to bring my podcasting stuff and I'm going to see if I can get some bands who want to come to the room and record an episode. Right. And then you mentioned you're like, that sounds like a terrible idea, dude. And I was like,
well, that's when I think
also, Buddy's right.
It's
everybody's shitty until 4 o'clock and they start drinking again.
Yeah. And nobody's had fun for 2 years. So people are going to be morning drinking and shit aside from whatever else. So yeah, I don't know if that's a good time to get start recording people. Well, maybe it's the best time.
Duly noted.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, it was awesome to talk to you. This was fun.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Next time we'll talk about art.
Yeah. Hang out for a second after we stop recording, and I want to make sure all my files are recorded and stuff like that. But yeah, it was good talking to you, dude. I'm happy you decided to come on.
Oh man, it's great.